So, in keeping up with the developments of this potential Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder fight, when I look at headlines, there seem to be numerous reports, rumours, and signs that there are difficulties surrounding the negotiation part of this fight. And I think it's fair to say that this could potentially indicate that there may be some delays, or maybe even the fight gets scrapped altogether. It's not looking too hopeful by this point, at least. And I'm not going to explore necessarily these reasons behind these reports. I guess in due course, depending on what happens and the information we receive, we can kind of cross that bridge when we come to it. However, I am going to question and explore whether this is potentially a good thing for Anthony Joshua. And to answer this question, I just want to cast your minds back about a month ago, because I caught a fair bit of flack for saying that Joshua's performance against Robert Helenius wasn't good enough. And this was despite him bagging a highlight reel KO. Because a lot of people, they saw how that fight ended. They saw the big punch that Joshua landed and just completely separated Helenius from his senses. And like, you know what? This is exactly what Joshua needed. He's going to get his confidence back. This is the perfect preparation for this Deontay Wilder showdown that's coming, that's looming. And I was thinking, hold your horses, people. This performance wasn't good enough. Even when you consider the knockout, the performance wasn't good enough. And that was based on the context of who Helenius is as a fighter, partly. Because, yeah, Helenius is capable, but he is beyond washed up by this point. He's never been the greatest fighter, even in his day. But then recently, he's been stopped quite badly in recent years, several times. And of course, it was, considering the golfing class between Joshua and Helenius, I was thinking, no, man, this is not a good performance. And then the additional context of Joshua seemingly being in pole position to fight Deontay Wilder in, January 2024, I was thinking, nah, this is a disaster waiting to happen. And this is just my observation, of course, but I'm trying to factor in all the evidence and all the context. And as I say, plenty of people disagreed with me and tried to rain down quite hard on my views for that. But I, alongside that, expressed the concern that I felt AJ may be done at top level. Not necessarily because he's reached his limit, but because he just wouldn't have the time to actualize any potential that he had left remaining. And I stand by that largely, because I look at AJ and I think, you know what, with enough time and the right kind of rehabilitation, he could get some mojo back. He could find his stride and maybe, just maybe, reach the level he did before, maybe even surpass it. And that might be a bit of a stretch, but I think he's a talented enough fighter that he could do that. But it's about the time. And I just didn't think that he'd have the time, as I say, to actualize it, because he was seemingly so gung-ho, be it him or Eddie Hearn, or maybe both of them, or maybe it's DAZN, whoever. But it seemed like the sights were so set on fighting Deontay Wilder next. And I just didn't think that would be a wise move. But because there are these concerns now about this Joshua Wilder fight being made, I'm going to ask the question, could this be a lifeline for Anthony Joshua? And I guess it depends on how you see the situation. If you're someone who thinks, oh, it doesn't matter what version of Joshua goes in against Wilder, he's going to smoke him. Joshua's just going to beat Wilder. You're not going to see this the same way. However, I'm on the other side where I see, don't get me wrong, if Joshua knocks Wilder out, fair play to him. But I just don't think I could bring myself to predict that happening, just given the trajectories of both guys. Because, yeah, Deontay Wilder had a very rough time with Tyson Fury, and he's had one comeback fight since then. But it's not necessarily a matter of, oh, this guy's had more comeback fights than this guy, and therefore he's rehabilitated better. Because if you look at the psychological makeup of Joshua and Wilder, they're two very different characters. I think largely, and this is going off on a bit of a tangent, but Deontay Wilder is not as much of a thinker as Anthony Joshua. And therefore, Deontay Wilder, because he's not a very deep thinker, the kind of emotional, psychological scars of defeat probably don't run as deep, because his mind is probably quite shallow anyway. So there's only so much depth to him. So Anthony Joshua uh, admitted himself he's an overthinker, and just his disposition, he's going to need, I feel, a longer rehabilitation process. And therefore, I think what Anthony Joshua needs, if he hopes to get that success against the likes of Wilder and all the other top fighters, is he needs time for that rehabilitation process to happen organically. You know, he's gelling with a new trainer, but he's also having to get over the defeats, not just of the recent Usyk fights, but the even Andrew Ruiz fight from, what, 4 years ago. All that stuff has been compounded with Anthony Joshua, and he needs time, I feel. But then should this fight not happen against Deontay Wilder next, let's be real, that'd be a considerable blow to the already tattered reputation and morale of boxing, given the amount of talk about this fight which took place, as I say, in the lead up to the Helenius fight. That's pretty much what was being spoken about. This is going to springboard Joshua into that fight. And, you know, the reputation and the morale, especially of boxing, it's shaky at the best of times. But recently, you know, you had the great ducking. I'm not going to say the guy's name. You know who I'm talking about. And all these frustrations, be it fights being called off because of failed PD tests and people not fighting people. And it's just, it's frustrating. And then if this fight fell through between Joshua and Wilder, once again, it's just like another punch in the face for boxing fans, if you pardon the pun. Because the hypes, the public expectation gets built up only for it to fall flat and fall through and not deliver. And should this happen, you know, I think rightfully Anthony Joshua and Eddie Hearn would be criticised for basically leading the boxing public up the garden path. But that being said, neither of these guys is short of a few pounds. Joshua's market value, should this fight fall through, would, continue to take a hit. But he's not exactly in dire straits financially. So could they afford that PR hit if it then provides Anthony Joshua with the opportunity to fight again before taking on Deontay Wilder? But then you have to factor in the, how viable that would be. Because the public are only going to turn out to see Anthony Joshua if he's fighting a certain level of opposition. And even then, if they're that turned off by the Wilder fight being called off, even though nothing's concrete, but because there's that expectation, maybe that makes it less viable. Because ultimately, boxing is a balancing act between the finance and the entertainment. Of course, I'm never going to dispute that. But I think regardless of where your priority lies, it's a difficult situation for Anthony Joshua because he has a lot of rehabilitation to get through if he hopes to be a top level heavyweight again. I think that's undeniable, even though some people, they seem to think that he's just ready to go and he's firing on all cylinders after Robert Helenius. I strongly disagree. So he's got the rehabilitation that is really a must. But then he's in a difficult position whereby if he doesn't fight Deontay Wilder, a lot of the blame is going to be pitted on him because of how vocal his side were about wanting to make the fight. And there's always been this kind of thread over the years, or through the years, that Joshua and Team Joshua have been ducking Wilder, which simply isn't true, at least historically. But now, you know, what is, in 2023, what is the verdict on that? So, look, I'm not trying to say there's a right answer. I'm just asking the question, could this Deontay Wilder fight and the fact that it may not happen, could that benefit Joshua? Could that be his lifeline where he just gets that extra bit of time to get in some more rehabilitation, to gel more with Derek James, to maybe eke out another opponent, squeeze in another fight? I don't know. I guess time will tell ultimately. The proof is in the pudding. But let me know what you guys think about that. I'm interested to hear how you guys see this situation, and also the trajectories of both Joshua and Wilder as fighters, regardless of whether their paths cross in the next couple of months or not. So, yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section below. As always, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.